What up, everybody? It's your boy CG, back to you guys again with more crypto news. Now, before I get into the topic of today's video, if you guys could do me a favor and hit that like button, it's the easiest way for you to show your support to the channel. It takes less than a second and it puts me on the good side of the YouTube algorithms. Now, jumping into the first topic of today, ETH scalability isn't going to be an issue soon, suggests Mr. Vitalik Buterin. So as you guys know, I'm a really big supporter of where ETH is going and not necessarily its current state. Ethereum 2.0 is the future of Ethereum, and this evolution may be able to put ETH over the top as far as what it's fully capable of and the types of things that can be developed on the platform. So Vitalik says that ETH2 scaling for data will be available for ETH2 scaling for general computation. This implies that rollups will be the dominant scaling paradigm for at least a couple of years. So I'm assuming he means rollouts. I don't know if rollups is the real term that they're using here, but who knows. So first 2 to 3K TPS with ETH1 as a data layer, then 100K transactions per second with ETH2. Essentially, Buterin said the network will not instantly transition into Ethereum 2.0. In mentioning rollups or rollouts, Buterin refers to a second layer on top of Ethereum as part of the equation, using ETH's current base blockchain and switching to 2.0 as a blockchain base. The transition into 2.0 will yield between 2K and 3K TPS, leading into eventual 100,000 transactions per second capabilities. So there you have it. The man said it himself. Like, we may see it a lot sooner than we think, but it will not happen instantaneously. It's going to happen and scale over the next couple of years, but I'm fine with that as long as Ethereum is moving, it's growing, it's evolving, it's becoming a lot more practical, and there's a lot of applications being built right now on Ethereum that could greatly benefit from this evolution of the protocol. Next article, European crypto cards reactivate as FCA allows Wirecard to resume operations. So for those of you who don't know, Wirecard was basically the provider for a large amount of companies as far as giving debit cards to these companies' clients, and two well-known recipients in the crypto world were Crypto.com and 10x of this company's credit cards or debit cards. Wirecard actually came under fire as of recently. Its cash reserves were misrepresented by over $2.1 billion, and it came under heavy scrutiny, and they've since had to fire their CEO. They've moved for filing for insolvency, I believe. They've had some lawsuits placed against them, to my knowledge. Don't quote me on that. So they've just been under heavy scrutiny. They actually recently as well had shut down their cards or services for debit card holders that originated from Wirecard. But as of June 29th, right here, which was yesterday, they say they have allowed the Wirecard solutions to actually reopen their debit cards again and allow companies who have these debit cards to resume financial activities. Now, I will hold my breath on this one, guys. This is not exactly just we're out of hot water. Wirecard is still going through legal issues, so this may just be something temporary until Wirecard actually gets its shit together. If they get it together at that, because I believe Crypto.com was already looking for a different debit card provider at the time when it first came out that the card activity was closed down. So who knows? I can't tell the future. They may be shaking hands behind closed doors that we don't know about. They got a lot of money apparently, so this may be resolved just as quickly as it became an issue, but who knows? We don't know what the future will hold. Final article. Max Kaiser. U.S. hash rate war with Iran can send Bitcoin price to $500,000. So, Mr. Max Kaiser is stating that essentially the United States, Iran, and I believe Venezuela are essentially going to be competing for dominance of the Bitcoin network as far as hash rate goes in the coming couple of years. So let's hear what he has to say in detail. BTC will hit 500K because the United States will start a giant hash war with Iran and Venezuela, and it's already started. In the latest episode of his Kaiser Report TV show, Max predicted that the Iranian and Venezuelan regimes would force the Trump administration to embrace BTC. He goes on to say that God is looking at a stupid Bitcoin protocol. Thanks to Tehran potentially controlling 3% of the BTC hash rate already and Venezuela briefly accepting BTC payments, the US joining the fight for BTC supremacy is only a matter of time. And it's very true, in my opinion, that the US is not going to just sit down and let them take over as far as circumventing the US as a means of payment or as the strong reserve currency of the world. And the US is not going to just sit down and let this happen. And as we all know, the US likes to dominate. The US likes to be in control at all times when it comes to these types of things. So I want to be surprised that we're seeing all these big mining operations going up in the United States across the entire country. I want to be surprised if that's the US government behind the scenes making these things happen. That's actually something you guys might want to look into as well. Who is at the top of these mining companies or operations that are being built all over the US? Iran already has 3% of global hash rate, so now I think Venezuela will get 3 to 5% pretty quickly, Kaiser said. At some point, America will say, we've got to enter the 21st century space race of mining BTC, and then they'll try to seek 20% of the hash rate, and then security goes up dramatically, and the price goes to 400 to 500K. Kaiser's previous arguments: Bitcoin represents the reformation of free speech, which governments deny citizens by controlling the currency and therefore the entirety of their position within the state. Very true and very powerful statement that Mr. Kaiser just said right there. I wouldn't be surprised if he got censored or being shadow banned. Uncensorable, unconfiscatable, and indestructible wealth. The current situation on macro markets versus the suffering of many Americans, exemplified in the BLM protests, speaks to Kaiser's point. Anger with the government and dilution of the US dollar contrasts with stock markets seeing their best quarter since 2011. At the time, the Federal Reserve has taken ownership of huge chunks of the equity market. Doesn't that scare you, the Fed owning equity in your country? And the Fed is a foreign entity equal to 30% of U.S. gross domestic product. Last week, Kaiser appealed to protesters to abandon their mode of retaliation and simply opt out. I'm not even going to say buy Bitcoin. I'm going to say opt out of this system. The truth is, if you want individual sovereignty, if you want justice, if you want uncensorable, unconfiscatable, and indestructible wealth, BTC is the way to go. So, extremely powerful statement from Max Kaiser. I completely agree with him. I believe people need to start opting out of this system that's being extremely unfair to them and actually destroying the middle class and any hopes of ever crossing the barrier or the threshold and becoming one of the wealthier families in not even just the United States or the country, but the world. Like, the middle class is being destroyed all over the world, if you guys ask me. But anyway, guys, I'm not here to preach. This has been your boy CG. Have a great night, everybody. Stay safe. I'm out.